Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Agenda podcast on the Blood Red channel as we react to Liverpool's second defeat of the Premier League season and what that means for the title race. Well, it's the last show for the year, and we have an all-new panel for you today with myself, Patrick Smith, and I'm pleased to be joined by the Liverpool Echo's Charlotte Coates and Mark Wakefield. Well, Mark, I'll start with you. What's your initial reaction to last night's game, and how are you feeling?
I'd say it's a difficult one because, whilst I think Liverpool probably didn't play as good as we know they can, as good as the players out there deserved it to be, I still think they did enough to win the game. When you look at it, they only conceded one goal, a poor goal to concede defensively on the counter-attack, and a couple of defensive errors in the final third. But if conceding only one goal, you still expect this Liverpool team to score two or three more. Obviously the penalty chance, which is obviously the obvious one, but there was a couple of chances as well. Mane's is the obvious one that stands out in the second half. Jota had one in the first half as well, dragged it wide. They should have done a bit better. Van Dijk save. Salah had one saved in the first half as well. So they created plenty of chances, enough chances to win the game, but you could argue it's just one of those days that the ball just didn't go in the back of the net. And, typically, Leicester shipped six against Man City, and then Schmeichel has a blinder, stops Liverpool scoring. It's just one of those days, unfortunately, that we as Liverpool fans have become accustomed to over the last few years.
Yeah, Charlotte, the problems really were in the attacking third, weren't they? What do you think was specifically going wrong?
I just think, obviously now when Salah picks up the ball, teams are so set up to nullify him in a way, so they get many players around him. And then if he has an off day, then you need your Mane, your Jota to do it. But Mane, as we say, had an off day. The chance he missed was, I thought on the replay it'd show that the ball had bobbled or he'd scuffed it, sort of thing, but he actually hit it perfectly, but just lifted it over the bar. I feel like the midfield didn't give much creativity wise, and Salah were picking the ball up a lot wide, and 4 players to beat, and you can't be producing that sort of thing every time. So I think Miss Thiago yesterday with his passing, and Keita's risky passing, and the little 1-2s he does, and it opens space. So I feel like it was all a bit too predictable.
Well, you touched on the midfield there. We'll go into that in a bit more depth. But Charlotte, you did mention Sadio Mane. Is he a player low on confidence? Is it time we got someone in to, at least give him a hand with the game load?
Yeah, I feel like he's always been a confidence player, as Mane. If he misses a chance or two, then it seems to stick with him. I was thinking if after he missed that chance, if he'd have got another chance, then there was nearly a moment where he got slipped through from Salah, and I was thinking if he'd have been put through then 1-on-1, then I don't know if he'd have scored, because these days you just don't. I don't know if like Salah, when he goes through, almost a certainty to score, but with Mane, you're unsure about it. I feel like he's better off with chances where he doesn't really have to think about it, where it's just more instinct. But yeah, that left-sided role, when Jota was originally brought in, you were thinking it was going to be him who was challenging Mane for it, and he was originally. But obviously his role's developed in the team, and he's gone more central. So that left-sided role, there's no one really. So it's not an attitude thing or anything for Mane. It's just he's not getting a chance to be taken out of the firing line, like if he's had a poor performance or two. So maybe going away to the AFCON will actually do him some good.
Yeah, I know it's cliche, and they're unbelievable elite footballers, but he really is. I can't think of many more confidence players than Mane. But Mark, as we mentioned as well, the midfield, we did really miss someone like a Thiago with that, line-breaking pass, didn't we?
Yeah, I suppose so. I think part of the main issues was, in the final third with just not taking the chances. But yeah, I still think, the quality in the midfield, Oxlade-Chamberlain, Fabinho and Henderson, there was enough quality there to win the game. I thought, if we get onto it, I thought that some of the substitutions by Klopp was a bit strange, given the in-game situation. He took Fabinho off, I think, around about an hour. It's roughly around that time. Obviously, if he got a yellow card, he would have been absent for the Chelsea game. And I get, taking him off to preserve him for that game, but, do that when this game's won, get that only game against chances only as big as it is if they go and get 3 points against Leicester. Now, now we're feeling like a bit chasing it a bit more. So that couple of decisions there did raise a few eyebrows. But yeah, I mean, like I say, it just didn't seem right. I mean, Klopp said it afterwards, like I said himself, they just weren't themselves from start to finish, from top to bottom, all the way across the pitch. And I think part of that might have been the missed penalty, but this team has bounced back from setbacks before in games and not had a blink of an eye about it. So it was a bit of an odd one, but yeah, I mean, because it's easy to say, if this player was there, would we have done better? This player or that player, it's just like I say, we've got to give Leicester some credit. They did defend well. They had a makeshift back line. A couple of inexperienced players in there, as well as midfielders. And Didi is a midfielder, and Amartey has played more predominantly as a midfielder as well, even though he is naturally a defender. So we've got to give them some credit for that. But yeah, I think it was just one of those days that I think the only reason this defeat seems a bit worse is because there was a lot of pressure going in. Like they've got to get that gap to City, and that's what makes it feel a little bit worse. But take it in isolation. It's just it's a bad day at the office, and hopefully it doesn't set them back too much. The only downside is you've got a team like Man City who are 6 points clear, and we don't want to give a team like that too much advantage going into the second half of the season.
Well, I'm going to bring it back to Fabinho because, for me and many other Liverpool fans, I'm sure he is the first name on the team sheet in some ways because he's just so important. And obviously, you understand why Klopp took him off to get him ready for the Chelsea game in case he got another yellow. But Mark, he really had to wait till the game was won, I think, didn't he? We just missed that bite. Leicester were playing on the counter, and we needed that midfielder to put in a big tackle, maybe even a foul sometimes when it's needed. We just sort of lacked that bite, didn't we, in the last 30 minutes of the game?
Yeah, I mean, it's a difficult one. Like I say, Leicester did play defensively well, but attacking wise, they didn't have too much. Vardy had a couple of moments on the edge of the box, I think, and he had opportunity to shoot a couple of times. But Liverpool defensively did mostly well to keep him penned in. Maddison didn't have much of an influence of the game, so defensively they didn't do too bad. But I think it was almost in the build-up. Even the they were trailing 1-0, and they just didn't seem to have that urgency to try and score a goal. Even in the last 5-10 minutes, they need this Klopp team. I mean, if you think back to the season they won the league, the Villa game away from home, they scored 2 goals in the last 3 or 4 minutes to win the game, and that proved to be a pivotal game of the title race. And whilst it didn't look on the cards for that game, you just think you never know, but they just didn't seem to have that drive. Whether that's I mean, Robertson had a massive hand in that game in that occasion, so whether his absence might have been part of that, but I still thought Tsimikas did solidly well. He got down the flank a couple of times defensively, did mostly okay, a couple of decent crosses, but yeah, I say it's just all you can put it down to is just an off day, which unfortunately it happens. It happened a little bit at West Ham when they lost early in the season, but on that occasion they scored 2 goals, and if Liverpool scored 2 goals on this occasion, they won the game, and they had enough chances to do that. I think it's just an off day, unfortunately.
Sure, I'm going to talk about Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain as well because it looked like he was having a pretty decent season, but he's been off the boil recently, hasn't he?
Yeah, and he's one of them that you want him to do well. You want him to succeed at Liverpool because when he's such a good character, he's got such a good personality, and it's like he's good for the squad to have around. But before his injury, like his knee injury, he was one of the first names on the team sheet for that midfield. He gave something different that Liverpool they've not really had under Klopp, that picks up the ball and drives at players and creates things. He's fast. But obviously since then, it's been tough for him, the injury that he had, and picked up other injuries since then, and he's not really had a sustained period inside. But now when he's getting chances to start, like he's shown flashes this season. It's not like he's been awful. But you really want him to just kick on. Like he got a chance last night, and there were a lot of cries for Keita to start. But he went for Ox, and you just want him. You were just willing him to do something really. But sometimes it's just like playing with 2 in midfield because he just want that output. It's not there. It's like he's just not adding anything.
Well, of course, we did see the introduction as well, Charlotte, of James Milner and Naby Keita into midfield, but it was pretty underwhelming from those 2 as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. The subs were quite strange, really. I mean, obviously Keita coming on, when you saw that, you were thinking, right, well, hoping he makes similar impact to the one he did in the cup. But I think Milner coming on for Fabinho, and it just didn't work. And then switching, was it 4-2-3-1 that we switched to, and then so the double pivot of Keita and Milner, it didn't work. Milner that deep in a two, he's not got the legs for it, he's not got the pace, and you just feel that he's going to give a foul away every time, so it breaks play up, and then it would just couldn't really build any momentum. And then thought Keita were quite poor, to be honest, when he came on. Gave the ball away a lot. Didn't just his passes were very misplaced. But it's tough coming on as a sub where the game was quite a fast-paced game as well. So to get up to speed of the game, like Tielemans came on for Leicester and he struggled. He struggled to get up to pace with the game. But just felt that no sub really made an impact. Probably made us worse, to be honest.
Yeah, I've got full faith in Jurgen Klopp, and I've learned over the years to trust his decision making. But I definitely think the substitutions last night have raised many eyebrows. But Mark, we're going to move on to the defence. It was a relatively solid performance. I know we didn't get the clean sheet, but I know they didn't have much to do as well. But especially Joel Matip, how fantastic was he yesterday?
Yeah, I think he was solid. I mean, considering he got booked, I think in the first 10 minutes or so, quite early on in the game, he got a yellow card, unfairly a yellow card in my opinion. And you could see there were a couple of instances in the game after that some of the Leicester players, certainly the Leicester fans, trying to get him sent off. I think that incident with Iheanacho, I think in the first half or sometime, I can't remember. Went up for a challenge and just trying to get under his skin a little bit. But yeah, he seemed just completely unfazed by it. Like I say, he's a brilliant character to have in the team, and he was probably the one, certainly after Henderson got taken off, that seemed to show a little bit more fight, a little bit more drive to try and push the team forward. We see his legendary runs, if you like, trying to get through from in defence and then try and almost walk into the net, and he almost did it on a couple of occasions. And you just think one of these days, on whatever occasion it's going to be, it's going to go for him at some point. One of these,
one of those is going to come off, isn't it?
It's got to at some point.
Yeah.
It's too good a play for it not to. No, it's just on the edge of it a minute. But yeah, defensively, I thought he had a solid game. There was one instance, I think it was in the first half, where Henderson plays a bad pass to him, and he sort of gave him the eyes, and that's the captain. He's doing that too, so it shows that he's not afraid to do that. And Henderson, in fairness to him, held his hands up on that occasion. And to be honest, a number of players played a few wayward passes or bad passes in that game, so he wasn't alone in that. But yeah, Van Dijk didn't have his best game. I think for the goal, I think he could close Lookman down better. But you can understand. I think I can't remember which play it was, but if he gets alongside him, he could maybe give away a penalty. But Van Dijk could block the shot if you like, but he narrowed the angle. Van Dijk's not one of those players who can dive into a challenge. He always tries to make the angle as tough as possible for the striker, and he did. But in fairness to Lookman, he was a very good striker. I think Alisson was probably more at fault than Van Dijk there. But yeah, back to Matip. He just did have a solid game. You can't really ask much more of him. It was just, like I say, it's just one of those days. I think, as we said earlier, it's more of the forwards' fault, if you like, for not putting the ball in the back of net rather than defence for shipping one goal, because it just happens. And Liverpool's clean sheet record isn't that great this season. They've kept a few, but it's been the goals that have won them the games this season. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case against Leicester.
Yeah, well, these games do happen. It's one of those goals where maybe Van Dijk and Alisson could have done better, but we move on from it. But Charlotte, I'm going to ask a very broad, general question now. We're now 6 points off Man City. Are we still in the title race? Can we gain the lost ground on them?
Oh, it's a tough one, because anything can happen in football, that. But you fancy City to win tonight, 9 points with a game in hand, with next game away at Chelsea. It's tough. It's tough, isn't it? Because the form City are in, they won 9 on the bounce, and we've seen it before. They could easily go on and win 15 on the bounce, 20 on the bounce, and it's just any other season. Well, any other competition. So United sides of past times, Arsenal of past, you'd be feeling like, it's well on. We've only lost 2 games this season, but it's just the fact that Man City is such a machine that they just produce win after win after win. It's just hard to see where they're going to drop. 6 points, 9 points, whatever it is. It's just, you know, that Liverpool basically have to be near perfect from now. When you've got Chelsea coming up next, that's a huge game for both sides. You're feeling like to keep the title race alive, one side has to win it. If it's a draw, City are laughing. But yeah, I mean, Liverpool still have to play City. Anything can happen in football, but the way it is at the moment, it does just feel a bit downcast. Where you're thinking like title could be gone.
I think the thing to remember as well, Charlotte, is of course City can basically put out 2 11s that would probably both get in the top 4. And, you know, we've got the tough festive period with fixtures. We've also got COVID now, meaning lots of teams are missing key players. But City just seems to keep pumping out the results. It's absolutely ridiculous, isn't it? Like, you know, what is their method in the madness?
Yeah, exactly. It's like if they get an injury, if they got an injury to Bernardo Silva, let's say, who's probably been their best player this season, it doesn't really affect them because they can bring in, like, Jack Grealish paid 100 million for him. They've got Raheem Sterling, who's been on the bench quite a bit recently. But Liverpool lose Salah in Jan, and you're thinking who's going to play? Who's going to play there and replace him? It's the same if Van Dijk got an injury. Like if Diaz got an injury, they just bring in another £50 million defender. So it's what, unfortunately, it's just what Liverpool are up against, where it's kind of sod's law, really, where the best Liverpool side I've seen in my lifetime is up against this City side, who probably the best side the Premier League have seen.
Yeah.
So it's just, I don't know, it's just a bit of a joke, really, isn't it?
Arguably 2 of the greatest club sides of all time, you know, in the same Premier League season. It is quite literally sod's law. But Mark, I do think it's a 3-team title race. Chelsea are still in there. They had a bit of a statement win against Aston Villa with Lukaku coming back and scoring as well. And of course, we play them next. You know, what are Chelsea's hopes for the title looking like?
I mean, I think you're foolish to think that either Liverpool or Chelsea are out of it. I mean, I know we're feeling a bit down and, you know, thinking, you know, City are 6 points. It seems a sizable gap. And in fairness, that is a big gap to overcome, especially against this City side. But, you know, they won't feel out of it. You know, Chelsea won the Champions League last year against all expectations, arguably, with Tuchel coming in and trying to fix everything. Liverpool won the title the year before and won the Champions League the year before that and went on, I think, almost over a year unbeaten. You know, however many games unbeaten at home it was before last season. So they won't feel out of it. You know, the level on points with Liverpool at the moment, they can go ahead of them if they beat Brentford, I think it is, this week. So, you know, they certainly won't feel out of it in any way. But, you know, overcoming the City side, like Charlotte said there, you know, they're just a machine when they get going. They've won like 9 or 10 on the bounce already. And, you know, think of the 6 points that you've got to overcome. Not only that, you've got to try and gain 6 points on them. And like say, imagine, you know, dropping 6 points, what's that, 2 defeats, maybe a couple of draws in there. And then not only that, you've got to better that by saying winning all the remaining games. Like it's going to be a very, very difficult task for Liverpool or Chelsea to do it. But, you know, if they're going to give up now, then what's the point in playing football? You know, if you're going to give up in December, regardless of how far away you are, you know, while it may, like Klopp said there, you know, his job is to fix the problems that he saw on the pitch last night, not think about the gap that he's got with another team in the league. So it's not over till it's over. I think we've being very, very negative if we did say that. So put some form of optimism on it, but I think we've got to be realistic that this City team are arguably the toughest side that any team could go up against in the league ever. You know, if this was United or Chelsea, their pomp, or Arsenal 10, 15 years ago, you know, they might think, there might be a bit of a chance. But yeah, say football's changed, and now you can't win the league with 80, 82 points. You can't do that anymore. You have to win it with, you know, 90 plus. Last season was a bit of an off season, but now you have 90s, and you know, however many points, I can't remember off the top of my head how many points we've got, but we've got quite a lot to make up if we're going to get to that number. So it is possible, you know, we've done that before, but like you say, in these challenging times with COVID and Ofcom, with players going away, you know, it's difficult to see how it's going to be done, but you always got to live in hope it's still possible while it's possible.
I think with points ties, you know, it's probably one of the most competitive Premier League seasons. I think it might be the most competitive season of my lifetime. It's going to be so difficult to get to, like, you know, at least 90 points. But Mark, it's such a massive game on Sunday against Chelsea. What changes, though, do we need to see from Liverpool? Because if we play like the Leicester game, I don't think we're going to come away from Stamford Bridge with, you know, any more title hopes, are we?
I mean, even if they lose, it depends how City do against Brighton. Brighton could turn City over as as far fetched as it may sound. They might do. You never know. But we've always got to you've always got to go on and expect City and Chelsea to win every game. You just got to do that. And if they don't, then it's a bonus. Chelsea play between now and then, which before we played Leicester, you thought that would be an advantage, but Leicester played 2 days before us while we had almost a week off, and they still won the game. So you can never write anything in football, predict anything in football these days. I think it'll be much on team selection. I think Thiago should, all being well, because I think he was out with muscle soreness. I think hopefully he'll be back in the team. Fabinho, obviously, it should be in there. Salah and Mane will probably be the last game before they go away to AFCON. Keita will probably play because it'll be his last game. You want to make the most of him while you've got him available. But the Chelsea team, certainly the first 3 months of the season, I personally, not say tip them for the title, I thought, well, these are going to be quite tricky to get past because once they score one, they don't usually concede, and that's not been the case for the last month or so. But they won against Villa. I watched the game. They didn't play well in the first half, but Lukaku, you just saw the impact that he had off the bench. And he just makes such a difference to the team. And he's, whilst Liverpool kept him quiet at Anfield in the reverse fixture in August, he just only needs a moment. That's all he needs. Like Harry Kane against Tottenham, it was off form, but one chance takes it. Yeah. That's it. And they're going to need a lot of luck. I think any team will admit that going to Chelsea away, you need a bit of luck to win the game. United arguably had a bit of luck when they played there. I think earlier in the season, they got a draw. Could have lost it and could have won it. It's just the way it goes. But it's certainly going to be interesting to see how we approach the game, because I think we could arguably even play the same as we did against Leicester. But if the chances go in, Salah scores a penalty, Jota scores, Mane scores. That's 3-4 goals right there. If you take those chances, it's a different game. So it's not so much taking the chances, but if you don't score the goal, it's how you respond to that. Don't let your heads drop, which in fairness, the Liverpool team don't usually do. It was just this one instance where you just felt how they're going to go about trying to get this goal. Like, oh, they've missed a penalty. Oh, they've had a couple of seconds to get away. Oh, now they've conceded one. Now we're going to let our heads drop. That doesn't normally happen. So if that happens against Chelsea, how they're going to respond, especially in that atmosphere, it's going to be interesting. But this Liverpool team thrive in these sorts of challenges, and I'm sure they'll do it again.
Well, exactly. It's only the second loss of the season. Even in the Premier League, we've not lost any other competition. By no means is it a disaster, and I'm sure the Chelsea game is going to be a belter. I've got all the faith in this Liverpool side. When they need a result, we really do go and get it normally, so I've got plenty of faith in them. But Charlotte, it's about to be January, and it's going to be a manic month for Liverpool with AFCON, lots of fixtures again. But the January transfer window's open, so I'm sure all of our timelines are going to be flooded with rumours flying in every day. But what would you like to see happen? Because it's been a while since Liverpool have actually done much business, isn't it?
Yeah, I'd like to see an attacker come in, someone who's exciting, maybe a wide man who can come in and spice things up a bit in that front three, front four. Obviously Salah, Mane won't be here for the whole of January, and then like we said earlier, Mane's got no competition on that left side. We've seen Jared Bowen linked quite a bit to Liverpool. He's had, when I first saw the links in the summer, I was thinking, really? But this season, he's shown he's up there. He's up there with the level required. You feel like he's that sort of player that Klopp could bring in and really, really get the best out of. Like he'd improve. But he's not going to cost. He's not going to be cheap. Yeah, exactly. And he's had a good season, and signing in January is difficult, especially from a Premier League side. And West Ham will have aspirations of their own, so they want to let him go. But yeah, it's difficult. Rafinha from Leeds has been linked, but he's been linked to Bayern, hasn't he, in the last few days? So yeah, I just feel like an attacker. We saw last night the struggles. Obviously, can't pin it all on last night because Liverpool have been free scoring this season, but I feel like without Salah, Mane is now gone. It's 8 games without a goal, so he needs taking out the firing line, and yeah, you just feel like a bit of a refresh is needed.
I think he just needs a break and a bit of competition, man, doesn't he? And the difficult thing is that you pay a premium in January because, as you said, teams do not want to sell their players. Like if you look at West Ham and Jared Bowen, they've got huge aspirations of trying to get in the top four. No way are they going to let him go for less than probably 50, 60. And he's English and young. But Mark, it's obvious we need to strengthen the attacking areas. But are there any others of the squad you'd like to see us strengthening?
I mean, midfield was the one that was talked about in the summer, wasn't it? With Wijnaldum going, and like I say, the new Kate was going to be going, and the fitness records of both him and Oxlade-Chamberlain hasn't been great, and Milner, 35. Have they got the legs in the middle of the park? But I might sound pessimistic here, but I just don't think Liverpool will sign anybody in January. I just don't think it will happen unless something absolutely crazy happens. Like you say, West Ham lower the asking price by half and say, yeah, you can have Bone for like 30 million, and even then they might not do it, because I think just this Liverpool, well, certainly since Michael Edwards has really got in, being the sports on director, they just play the waiting game and only go in for something like that if the opportunity presents itself, which, let's be honest, it doesn't happen too often. How often do Liverpool sign players in January? I know they did it last season with, Ben Davis and Kabak coming in, but they were emergency signings that they only did because Matip got injured at the end of January against Tottenham, which ruled him out for the rest of the season. If that hadn't happened, they wouldn't have signed anybody. So, midfield's never. I mean, I think I agree more with Charlotte that they need someone a bit more of an attacker, though, a winger, because I like Minamino, but there's never just doesn't seem to be going for him perfectly, since now he doesn't seem to have gone as planned since they signed him with the hopes from Salzburg. But there is definitely a play there, but it's just trying to find what role, what position, where he fits. Because I mean, if you ask most Liverpool fans what's Minamino's best position, I don't think many people will be able to tell you. Is he number 9? Is he number 10? Is he a left winger, right winger? Is he going to be a centre forward? The good thing about him is he can play in multiple positions, but I think he needs to solidify one. The good thing about Salah is, yes, he can play centre forward. He can play it possibly even on the left if he needed to, but we know full well he's right winger. Same with Manny on the left. So I mean, we could all sit here and say, yeah, we like to get this player, that player. But I like Rafinha at least. I think he's a good player. I've watched him a few times. He certainly impresses me. He certainly fits the bill of what this Liverpool team want to do, and with pace on the counter attack and pace, in attack and pressing as well, which he likes to do at Leeds as well. So he certainly ticks the boxes. But these players come at a premium in the summer, let alone in January. So unless something absolutely crazy happens, I don't think we'll see any certainly big names like that walking through the door. But I'd love to be shocked. I'd love to be proven wrong, but personally, I can't see it happening.
Well, there's also a flip side to the window, Charlotte. Is there anyone you'd like to see maybe shipped out on loan or permanently? Tough, a bit of a horrible question, but maybe more the loan side. Is there anyone we'd like to go and see get some game time elsewhere? Maybe Nico Williams of the like?
Yeah, maybe Nico Williams. Like maybe if he went out for some game time and then in the summer could get. I mean, you've got to feel that he's going to leave in the summer. So if he goes out for last half of the season, has a good go at it, and then Liverpool could get a decent fee for him in the summer. But other than that, it's hard to say really, because Liverpool don't have a massive squad. So and especially losing 3 players in January, can't really afford to let anyone go.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Squad's safe, then I don't think we're in a position of luxury like some other clubs will be looking to ship players on, maybe even in swap deals. We don't think we can even afford to be doing that. I've seen a few rumours with Joe Gomez being linked to West Ham, but no way would I let him go. But guys, I think that's all we've got time for today. Thank you both very much for joining me, and thank you everyone else for listening and watching. We'll see you again in the new year for another episode of The Agenda. But for now, it's goodbye.